think it's the people that we need are not here. Colleagues that are still having lunch, please, we would like to start time. You know, you don't want to leave late just because you're not coming back. Guys that are still having lunch would like to start. We're waiting for you. We should take 2 chairs. Start, please. Okay. Not on that one. Colleagues that are still outside would like to start, please. Can we please make our way back into the venue, please? PPRA staff, can you just close those doors there so that people can see that we are starting, because time is not on our side. Let's close those doors and start. Okay. I have somebody that has lost their bank card. If you've lost your bank card, please see me. It is a Standard Bank Gold card, unless if you want me to go and buy mashwam with it. I'm happy to do that immediately after this session. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you that are still outside, please join us as we would like to start, please. And then? Check. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start. So before we went for lunch, there were questions that were not answered. Can we settle down, please, because we want to start? Guys, we need more time to entertain all your questions. Can we settle down, please? Okay, just a quick reminder. You need to scan this barcode using your smartphone. Capture your details there so that we can obviously have your personal information, and then we'll obviously be able to contact you using this information here. Right? Now, next up, we're going to actually have CSOS talk to us, and we're going to welcome on stage Mrs. Thembelihle Mbatha to come and address us. Thembelihle, please join us and let's have the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm getting the graveyard shift, so there's no round of applause to pick me up. Then I'm going to take 2 hours. Oh, thank you very much. That's encouraging. So I'm Thembelihle Mbatha. I'm the Acting Chief Ombud for the Community Scheme Ombud Service. With the discussions earlier, it appears that you do know about us and what we do. So my presentation will be brief and it will be short. It will literally cover our mandate, an overview as the CSOS. We are one of the sister entities of the PPRA. All of us are in the human settlement space. And I'll just cover, high level, our summary, our strategic outcomes are, and the collaboration that talks to transformation as well. I'm not hoping to raise more questions about transformation, but that's the steam train that we're all going on to. And we hope it will catch some momentum. So who is the CSOS? What is a community scheme? What's CSOS' role in the property sector? We also almost feel like the stepchild as well from time to time. But it's good because we're all stepchildren in one room today. So basically we are a public entity and we're established in terms of the CSOS Act. And we also established to regulate the conduct of parties within a community scheme. And I'll touch on what a community scheme is. And it's the space we are all playing in, basically. So we're a national entity. We do have a board of directors, as the Honorable Minister said earlier on. If there's no performance, she'll start with the board of directors, then it'll come to us, and then so it goes. So we have an interest in removing practices that are undesirable, unfair practices that we see within the property space. And also governance bodies that operate within the community schemes. We want to see increase in value, because what you find if you have incorrect governance, you don't have the right people in the space, the value of these properties that you guys are trying to, the stock, it depreciates in value. So we want to discourage that and encourage proper governance within shared property spaces. So what is a community scheme? In essence, when we say a community scheme, it's all those sectional title schemes that we see out there. Share block companies, they do actually form part of what we regulate. We also have homeowners property association, the HOAs that were touched on earlier on. And also schemes for retired persons, they fall within our mandate. And housing cooperatives, they also form part of what we define as a community scheme in terms of the Act. So this is the space that you guys are in. These are the schemes where you guys sell properties to or even, engage in that space. So what's our role as the CISOs? In terms of what we do, we provide education, we provide training and documentation. We review the rules. So we touched on some of the issues around undesirable rules earlier on, where you find schemes, these estates, they put a rule that says you can't sell in my estate until you pay 80,000 rand. That's an unconstitutional rule, it's an undesired rule. So those rules for those particular community schemes come to us for review and verification. And then we issue a compliance certificate around that. So I think first and foremost, what you guys can assist us with as you sell these properties and you give people, the lowdown on what this estate entails, just ask for whether the scheme itself is compliant with the CISOS rules. That will help a long way. You won't get them calling you and say, you sold me this property, the neighbors are awful, this property is depreciating. So we can all assist each other in helping in the property sector. So the other thing we do is scheme registration. So those that are in development, in the development space, you can't even open that development without getting a certificate from the CISOS. So you have these runaway developments that crop up that are not compliant, report them to us. We've got a new compliance and enforcement unit that will crack these down as well. So we do dispute resolution. We promote communal living at a less cost. As you'll know, we all pay levies in these setups. So as part of the levy that you pay, it's a levy that comes to the CISOS. It ranges to a maximum of 40 rand, can start from 2 rand, 3 rand, 6 rand, depends on the space or depends on the square meters of how much land you're taking in that space, as well as the admin levies that are charged. So we calculate that based on that. So in terms of consumer training and awareness, we also provide training that covers not only homeowners, but covers trustees, it covers yourselves, it covers those of you that are practicing as managing agents. So at any point in time when you need a training request, we as the CISOs are there to assist, to be able to train, as well as the trustees in that regard. And we regulate good governance. So like I indicated, we issue documents called practice directives, where we cover areas such as undesirable rules. I can cite a few of the undesirable rules, for instance, something like you can't slaughter inside your estate. We stay in a democratic country. Everyone has the right to exercise whatever religious or whatever practice that they want within the confines of their space. So that would be an undesirable rule, for instance, and the one that I touched on earlier about exorbitant fees to be able to participate within that particular scheme. So the other thing that we do, so we generally deal with any other matters that give effect to us as our existence within the Act, and we act as a mediator. So as our role as CISOs, part of our conciliation practices is to do mediation. So really, if there's an issue between you as a managing agent and whatever the case may be, the trustees, the scheme, we can do the mediation part of it. We don't want it to get to adjudication stage where there's no win-win situation. So basically, there's a winner and a loser. But when we start with mediation, we definitely help. So with us, we're not competing with anyone. We want to be a credible world-class ombud service in South Africa. So we don't have competition. Our competition is out there. We are here to help you and raise the flag of the country quite high. So just touching on a few of those missions and values, which I won't get into, but the outcomes that we want is to foster efficient and an integrated government That's why we are collaborating with the PPRA, and I'll touch on some of the areas where we are collaborating. And also to regulate these schemes that you guys operate in. Justice, effective justice for everyone involved. So empowered stakeholders are really going to take the country forward and increase the value for the property sector. If you guys are not empowered with the education that we have, that we can give free to you, then it might not assist the cause. And the last but not least is transformation of community schemes. By transformation, in our case, we mean that, for instance, you'll see schemes, it's almost like a closed sector. In that particular scheme, you'll have the auditor being the brother of the developer, the security guard being the sister of the brother that is the person running the, and the property practitioner that's selling the houses is the cousin of, so it becomes really quite incestuous, if you can put it that way. So those are kind of practices that we don't encourage, but that's where transformation needs to come in. People don't attend AGMs. I'm sure all of you that sell properties in these areas don't attend the AGM. Well, you might be an interested party because really the voting rights belong to the homeowners that stay there. But it wouldn't harm if you could also be involved in those areas. So how will we then interact with managing agents and property practitioners as the CSOS? We've also got the Sectional Title Scheme Management Act, where we deal with matters related to service addresses, debt collection, unanimous and special resolutions. And you will know now the economy is very bad. So the first thing people start doing, not paying their levies. They start running from you guys to pay your commission. And it's now stories and dilly-dallying. So some of those areas can fall within our space in terms of mediation, but we also then refer these cases to PPRA. And we do dispute resolution, as I've touched on, annual scheme returns. That's what we look at in terms of compliance. And we also verify managing agents' code of conduct and registration with PPRA. So we've got what we call a panel of executive managing agents. When you find a scheme that is in distress, it's being run down, it's not being taken care of, we've got yourselves as property practitioners where we can invoke sections in the Act to say we are handing over the scheme to an executive managing agent. So these are adverts that we do, but you guys don't participate. We actually struggle to get property practitioners in our panel of executive managing agents. So that is a new space that you can definitely play in. But the preamble to that is that you must comply with the PPRA regulations. So you must be compliant to form part of our panel. And then they report misconduct to us. So as we find cases that have a feature of misconduct from property practitioners or managing agents, we then report it to PPRA. So it will be important for us to work together to strengthen the enforcement in that regard. So the future that we're looking for, I touched on the issue of transformation programs. So we are bound, in terms of our other act, to appoint a panel of executive managing agents. And these are for the schemes that I have indicated that are in distress. And we do that. We check your experience, your skill, whether you've managed schemes before, then we recommend you in that regard. So we've launched the panel in 2021 November and February 2022. So the panel is active. We'll be doing another call for that in this next quarter. So if you do have the skills, you've managed a community scheme before, and you are capable, compliant with the PPRA, there's no need why you don't need to take up the opportunity and just get involved as well. So to speed up transformation in the sector, we are having engagements with the PPRA, as well as developing these EMAs. So we don't take it for granted that experience doesn't come automatically when you get your accreditation. So we'll partner you up with the bigger managing agents in terms of mentorship. We've already signed agreements with Preto, Trafalgar, Mid-City, some of those ones that are big in the space of managing agents specifically. So this you'll get in the slides. I'm not going to go into detail with it. It's after lunch, I understand. So it's in the slides which are in your USBs. You can see what the requirements are to become part of the EMA. Then you can assist us in that. And in conclusion, colleagues, I'd just like to say collaboration is a key part of success of any organization, whether it be the PPRA, whether it be us as CISOS. So when we execute it properly and clearly, defined vision with missions, and transparent in our communication, which I think is what took place today. You guys have been very transparent with your concerns. We can definitely be successful. So coming together today here is the first step, and keeping together would be progress, and working together will be success. I'd like to end it on that note. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move to the next agenda item on the program, and that is a speech or presentation by Jabulani Fagazi from NHFC. Please help me welcome Mr. Fagazi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Greetings to the Chairperson of the Board and the Board of the PPRA. My name is Jabulani Fagazi from NHFC, and thank you for inviting us so that you can share with the practitioners what they can benefit from NHFC. My presentation mainly is going to be on First Home Finance. But before I do that, I need to share with you who NHFC is. NHFC is a development finance institution that is wholly owned by government, reporting to the Minister of Human Settlements. She appoints our board, and our board cracks the whip on us that we must deliver as expected. NHFC was established in 1996, but we are in transition to become the Human Settlements Development Bank. This follows the merger of Rural Housing Loan Fund and Nurture under NHFC banner as the first step towards establishing the HSDB. That's where we are now. The Minister indicated that as NHFC, we have a role to play in addressing some of the challenges that were raised here this morning. One of the challenges is around providing development finance to practitioners, especially developers. What you will note here is one of our products. We finance social housing in partnership with SHRA, because SHRA provide grant funding and we come with debt funding to the SHIs. Apart from that, we also provide funding for private rental, which includes accommodation for students, student accommodation here. In addition to that, we also provide funding for affordable housing. That's where most developers deliver stock that is accessed by people who are in the first home finance market, the first-time home buyers. This is here. In addition to that, we have other products. I'm not going to touch on all of them, but I'm just going to talk about first home finance, which in fact I will then zoom in on after this slide. I wanted to highlight that what you see here are products that can address some of the pains that the practitioners face. I think other than just debt funding, I can indicate that we also provide equity finance. We have a corporate finance division that look at applications, to address the aspect of equity where applicants for our debt funding are having challenges. Now, the main topic. Okay, we are back. Yeah. The minister earlier on indicated that first home finance has relevance, to practitioners. I think many of you will know what was called FLISP, Finance Linked Individual Subsidy Program. That name no longer exists, ladies and gentlemen. The minister in February launched the new brand name of FLISP and called it First Home Finance. The reason for that was that we had to use the name that resonates with the purpose of the program, that is to assist people who aspire to build or buy their first homes. And she said it's First Home Finance. Now, it's not totally different from your previous FLISP in that it still focuses on the same market, households earning between 3,501 up to 22,000. These are people who find it difficult to access adequate housing unassisted, but also who cannot access free government subsidized house because they are too rich, apparently. Now, in terms of what does then the subsidy provide? The subsidy is actually on a sliding scale. The lower you earn, the higher the subsidy. At the bottom of the income bracket are households earning 3,501. Currently, they qualify for the maximum subsidy of 169,265. And we are grateful to the minister because she announced this new subsidy quantum and it became effective on the 1st of April this year. Looking at the first quarter numbers, we have seen a huge impact of that increased quantum in terms of benefiting the targeted beneficiaries of the program. Previously, and since inception in 2005, FLISP, as it was called then, was only implemented with mortgages. But colleagues will agree with me that people in South Africa, many of them do not qualify for mortgages because of lower incomes in the first place, but if you go to rural areas, because there's no title to land. Now, with the changes in the revised policy, the options have been expanded to access the subsidy. And we think this is a game changer because for the first time, people in rural areas with PTOs will be able to access subsidy. People accessing pension-backed loans will be able to apply and access the subsidy. And similarly, people in stockfields, community-based organizations will also be able to access the subsidy. And that's a huge market if you look at the low-income levels in South Africa. In fact, if you look at the NCR reports, you'll see that more than 98% of the mortgages granted are to households earning above 15,000. So you can imagine the huge market that has been left behind. Now the question is, what can the subsidy be used for? You can use it to buy a house or to build a house, of course, in a housing development, or you can buy an existing house in the secondary market. You can also use the subsidy to buy a stand and be able maybe to build later when you have access to home loans and housing finance. One of the important aspects of policy is that when you're building a new house, certainly that house must be enrolled with the NHBRC, and also the builder must be registered with the NHBRC. And then you can also use the subsidy to cover other transaction costs, that are entailed in buying a property. Now, who can apply for the subsidy? The South African citizens, as well as those who have achieved permanent residence status in South Africa. Of course, you must have financial dependence. You must fall within the income that I've spoken about. You must not have benefited previously from any of the government subsidy programs. and also you must not have owned a home, because when you apply, we'll do the searches and we'll find in the deeds register that you already own a home or have previously owned a home, and then it will be declined. Or you have previously received a free house in Free State and then you went to Northwest and then you apply, again it will be declined. Now, how can you then apply for the subsidy? I think maybe some practitioners here will be familiar with how to apply for the subsidy. There has been many challenges in the past, emanating mainly from the fact that applying for the subsidy was a manually driven process. We are in the process of automating how you apply for the subsidy. I think the minister earlier spoke about the importance of digitization. That's very important. So what we have done, we have taken an existing system and basically enhanced it so that it can enable many applicants to apply online. We have an online portal. You can apply for the subsidy in the comfort of your home, wherever you are in the country. What I will show you here is just a high-level application portal. So anybody, whether you are a beneficiary, you are an estate agent, bond originator, or other parties, you can actually go to the portal and apply online, and then upload and upload required documents, to back up your application for the subsidy. We have a team that look at quality control. Once they are happy that everything is in, and then the application will pass the system, will pass the portal and go to the system and get processing. Once it's here in the system, that's when the searches will be done in the databases that we use. And then once we get the feedback, and then you will be able to give the feedback to the applicant or whoever is assisting the applicant for the subsidy. What we have found is that this system, even though it's an interim system, it has produced, I would say, better turnaround times compared to what we have seen before. Of course, there are still pains because there are still delays that are experienced in the system. And one of the reasons for that is because this system, we are still linked to the HSS in the department, and then through that we are able to do the searches. So if the HSS is down for whatever reason, and then we'll also be adversely affected. So in the long term, NHFC, as a transition to become the HSDP, we're looking at establishing a bespoke system that will enable us to do the searches directly to the relevant databases. We believe that will also bring about even more efficiencies and better turnaround times. Now, coming to our partnership with the PPRA, we have an MOU that we have signed with the PPRA, and the main reason for us to partner with the PPRA is to support the transformation agenda, because there is a huge role that we need to play as a sector, not just the PPRA by itself or NHFC or CISOs. Collectively as a sector, we need to work together to make sure that the transformation agenda is successful. We believe that as practitioners, you stand to benefit from first home finance, because the main purpose of this subsidy is to enhance affordability of home ownership. So people will be able to afford to buy new homes, and there are developers delivering those homes. There are a number of players who are involved, and we believe that by supporting PPRA in the transformation agenda, we'll be effectively supporting the practitioners, to grow their businesses, especially the emerging ones, because they need to enter, but also they need to grow their businesses. So by making sure that home ownership is affordable for the targeted beneficiaries, the practitioners will also be benefiting in the process. I think the minister earlier on highlighted the importance of what we are doing to the whole economy. I will skip this slide and go to the last slide. If you look at it, what we deliver a home, housing asset. There is a perspective from an individual who owns this asset. It becomes an economic asset and financial asset. It's a social asset as well. But the perspective is bigger than that. Now, this talks what Minister was talking about, economic growth. Delivering a home or a house has backward and forward linkages and multiplier effects on the economy. So that contributes to the economic growth in this country. And then we're talking about sustainable human settlements. We're talking about job creation. So what I'm saying, colleagues, is that what we do in this sector is more important than just delivering homes or houses, but we are actually contributing to the economic growth of this country, to job creation, and also creating sustainable human settlements. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us. We are still continuing. We are still carrying on, and we're still learning about what PPRA and the sister entities are doing. But we thought that what we should do, because there are multiple role players in the property value chain, it will be critical then to get different perspectives on how those other role players interact with the property practitioners. So, next up we have a panel discussion, and that is going to be led by our acting CEO. So I'm first going to invite the panelists to come upstage and take up their seats. They know themselves, and the CEO will then obviously join you to facilitate the conversation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for sticking with us. We surely do appreciate it. We have panelists comprising of role players, industry players. These are the people who are on the ground. They are the ones who know the concerns, and I thought it would be prudent to invite them because they know firsthand what is happening in the sector that we love so much. I will just ask each and every one of them to briefly just introduce themselves. Their biographies are flighted, but it's always good to hear from the horse's mouth, of who you are, why you're in the sector, are we transforming, and what is it that we can do better as a regulator. So I will start on my left, and it's always, I know earlier we were saying that there's no representation of black principals in the sector. So when there are sisters who have been in the sector for almost a decade and a half, you'd want to hear how come, what's so different about you, and I'm sure there's somebody sitting in this room today who wants to also stick it out like you have and without giving up. So I'll give it over to you. Tell us who you are.
Good afternoon, Dumelang. My name is Kele. Sure, I've been in this industry, as Tato said, for I think 13 years or so. Started off just being lastig. I was a tenant, and I thought, you know, this looks interesting. How about I get a job? That's what I thought. But then when I got in there, I thought, okay, this could actually be a career. This is something that I can do. Being in the industry so long, as Tato said, there are a lot of challenges, you know. But at the same time, I want to add, for those young ones that are in the room, it's enjoyable, to be honest. If you put away all sorts of the problems, the FFCs, that this, that, it's enjoyable. And I'm grateful that when I started out, that's when also at the time the EAB was saying you need to study for it, because a lot of us just do it because it's a job, you know. So that's how I pretty much stuck it out. I enjoyed the fact that I could actually study and do something that I'm passionate about at the same time. So yeah, 13 years on, you'll see in my biography, I'm passionate about transformation and very big on training, which is something that I think we need a lot. It has been addressed, but I do think that we could train more. We could train more, be it somebody fresh from out of school or somebody who decides later in life that I would like to do this. But I do think we could do quite a bit more with training. But we'll talk more about that later. Thank you.
Earlier on, when I said if there are any conveyances in the room, you'll be upset from what I was about to say. We do have a conveyancer, Madame. So tell the room who you are and what is it that you do in the sector.
Right. Thank you very much, the acting CEO. My name is Matrumi Matsetra. I am a conveyancer, if you like, an associate at the Adams & Adams attorneys. And as you may know, conveyancers work a lot with the estate agents. And we likewise do the same. And when I joined the firm some years ago, we were not working a lot with the estate agents. And as a black person coming from the humble beginnings, I then saw the need to get to sit with our black agents. Actually, I would say all the agents, but we are targeting also mostly our black agents. We are giving them trainings. We are ushering them into the market, holding their hand, because the perception on the street was Adams & Adams is so big that it's not accessible to the startup estate agencies, and we have since partnered with many other stakeholders in the field, and they brought to our doors black estate agents, startups, and then we have together trained many agents out there who are today actually operating at the highest level, and we are continuing to do that. And I hope today we are also going to share with you some of the work that we do, and we hope that you would find that quite insightful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Majume. Next in line, we've got Bernice. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be honest. We enter the sector for various reasons, but the truth of the matter is this industry is lucrative, right? Otherwise, I don't think the room would be this full. So when I speak of it being lucrative, we're talking rands and cents. And this young lady before us today, she's a co-owner of a real estate firm with her mother, and they just closed one of the biggest deals in this recession, in this current economy that we find ourselves in. Bernice, greet the people.
Thank you so much. I'm Bernice Mahuku. I come from Sonolo Properties. We're based in Dainfern Fourways, but we service the greater Gauteng and Northwest, specifically Rustenburg. Not to brag, but I will, since you mentioned it.
Go ahead, girl.
Thank you. On Friday, we just closed, I'll say we because my team was behind me, but I just closed a deal for 24 million in Helderfontein. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I'll move on to Lisa. Thank you.
This industry, it's got its highs, it's got its lows, but I always say that what determines who stays is the passion, right? And that's what makes you wake up the next day. That's what makes you keep on going, even though the months or the seasons differ. So this young gentleman before us today is driven by passion, I'd like to believe. So introduce yourself to us.
Hi everyone. Tembi's Winston Kunene here. I'm the founder of Libertalia Group and CEO of Mwesi Properties. So yeah, so Libertalia Group is actually a stakeholding company. We show interests in real estate, finance, education, and technology. Under our real estate division, we own 4 agencies where we operate in real estate transactions. And then we've got our finance division where we facilitate bond origination and bridging finance, working together with the banks. And then on our education, which is my favorite division, we train especially the youth on NQF4, NQF5 accredited courses just to bridge the gap, especially for the unemployment, where we introduce them into the industry and we give them access to certain resources that allow them to propel in a very difficult industry. And then there's a technological side, which is just systems that allow us to be able to function and produce certain results.
Thank you. One of the most important components in the value chain in the sector that we play in is finance, right? You can have a potential buyer, you can have a potential seller, you can have a property practitioner, but it is very important that you have finance. And our next panelist is the one who's going to tell us what is it that they do to assist potential home or in future homeowners. Thank you, Robson.
Hi, my name is Robson, and I represent a company called Mortgage Market. Traditionally, we'll be known as a bond originator, but it's pretty difficult to place us in regards to what we do because we look at ourselves as more of a fintech. We do bond origination, but we also play in the personal loan space as well. We're one of the first companies in South Africa where you can get a pre-approval for any of your clients within 2 minutes. So you will know if your clients are going to get that bond or not. We use the same codes and same scorecards as the bank. So we try to get people into homes as quickly and also as efficiently as possible with a very big emphasis on technology.
Thank you so much, Robson. We've got property practitioners in the room. I think I'll start with you. And I would like for you to tell them what is it that they can do to expedite the bond applications. What are some of the hurdles that you see that can better assist you, so you can ultimately assist the potential purchaser?
Okay, so I'm going to give you some background on what we call a vanilla application, which we've had in our business, where someone has got all the documentation, they've submitted everything, and they've used our platform, and within the space of an hour, they've already got a few offers from the bank. And the lesson in that is that you need to understand your customers' needs, but also understand their constraints, right? As much as everyone wants to afford a certain level of house, you need to understand what the constraints of your customer is in regards to costs, and interview your customers so that when you are getting to the point of it's time to now make that application and make that submission, you've got all your documents ready. You know what they qualify for, you know plus minus what they don't qualify for as well. And that allows the process to be a lot more smoother once you understand what your customer's constraints are, but also understanding what your customer's needs are. You know, I've always said that this is a game of quality more than it is about quantity. If you have 10 applications and you know that 5 of them might not qualify for a specific amount or bond, you know, focus on the quality applications where you know that you've got all your documentation ready, you know that it's not going to be an issue with affordability, and you can get those people into homes quicker.
Thank you so much. Earlier, we heard the minister speak about technology. She has the love for technology. And what is it that you think that the sector can do in that space, and also in your space as a mortgage originator?
Yeah, I think, you know, the world is moving at such a fast pace now where there's all these technology advancements, and the real estate industry or this industry is not necessarily taking advantage of that. And from the top of my mind, I would start looking at just 3 things, you know. VR, virtual reality. How are we using virtual reality to actually do home showings where you might not necessarily have the person in the same room as you, but you're using technology like VR, virtual reality headsets, where you can show someone an entire house when they're not even there. So that's one technology we can start looking at, is virtual reality. Every single person with a smartphone has some virtual reality capability at the moment. I think AI is the next one, where we're making use of AI for just decisioning based. So if we do get an application, we're using that to say, based on previous data sets and based on previous interactions, how we're using AI to actually get better decisioning, right? And this can be on the mortgage origination side, but also even on a personal finance perspective. How do we use that? And I think one which I think I'm excited about is we haven't seen a lot of companies using technology like blockchain in real estate. And I know whenever I say blockchain, people think Bitcoin and they start to hold their wallets a little bit tighter. But, you know, blockchain goes beyond things like Bitcoin and just cryptocurrency. You know, smart contracts where we are now saying if X, Y, Z happens, it should be triggering another event which is seamless and has minimum human intervention in that. So off the top of my head, I think those 3 technologies are things we can start looking at to kind of start driving this industry forward. And there's a lot of off-the-shelf stuff we can implement, even in your own individual businesses, to kind of get that little bit of an edge in the industry.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'd like now to just bring it back to the room, right? If you read the room, you'll see that the youth is minimal, right? I've seen quite a few that I interacted with during our lunch break. So what I'd like to know is, Bernice, you are young, you are in the sector. Why do you think the youth that enter the sector don't stay?
I'm just going to go off experience and just what we had in this past year. A lot of our interns who were coming in were struggling with mentorship. So we have a lot of full status agents, but who aren't willing to, I think, give off some of their time to take and carry someone through the process. And so a lot of our interns would leave because they are pushed into the sea and asked to swim, but don't even have floaties, if that metaphor and analogy makes sense. So I think from my point of view, I think what I would like or ask the PPRA maybe to consider is if there was funding or compensation or anything that they could do for full status or principals, so that they don't feel like they are giving off their time without being compensated, or just, you know, a way to make them more inclined or willing to, you know, give off their time, I think. Yeah.
Okay, just to piggyback right on what you were saying. So, Kele, you said in your bio that you were training, and I know that you were a trainer for one of the biggest, probably the top 5 in the country. Why did you train, and did that company compensate you to train, or it is just what you did, just to address what Bernice was speaking to?
For me, it was both. Given what I said earlier, I just enjoyed it. I wanted to do it, and I wanted to make sure that, because at the time I was a manager in that company, so I thought whoever that we sent out there to represent us must be trained. So I was compensated in the form of a salary, but at the same time, it's something that I genuinely enjoyed. And again, piggybacking on what she says, it's true. Looking at this room, they really do come in, but they leave. We don't keep them. So what I've noticed, or when you speak to them, you also see that it's not just the funding or us not wanting to help out. It's also the mindset. They have the mindset that it's this glamorous job and it's quick money, and any time is like, what time are we viewing? Literally. The first question, the first raise is, when are we going to view houses? You're like, but there's a lot more that goes into it. So I think, for me, what I think in terms of the PPRA and all of us sitting in this room, we can sort of try and change that mindset, that they understand that there's compliance and there's education that goes with being an estate agent. Because right now, with what we're picking up when we trade, they want to do their job, but then they don't actually understand what goes into it. So it's really, really important that we train the mindset as well. So not just, this is how you do the job, but also why you're doing it and the compliance and the education that comes with it.
Thank you. You see, the problem of being in the sector for a long time, it's very difficult to unlearn certain terminology. I've let it slide, but you guys are talking about estate agents. You are talking about... we are now property practitioners.
Yes.
Okay? So let's be intentional about implementing the legislation before us. So, Tembisa, why real estate? Why not pursue a career in being like doctorate, engineering, accountancy? Why real estate?
I love that question. It's a purpose-driven question, actually. So when you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, real estate is actually a need. So you look at your average household, right? A child is born, there's a roof over their head, that's real estate. They go into the schooling system, that's real estate. They graduate from university, that's real estate. They have access to jobs in commercial buildings, that's real estate. They get sick, they go to the hospitals, that's real estate. So I think it's just it's the identification for me. It's realizing that there is, when you look at South Africa, I was actually looking at the stats. There's about 60 million people in South Africa. There's only about 17 to 23 million houses. So there's a huge demand for housing. And when you look at that as well, and then you consider the unemployment rate in this country, 34% of that, you have the youth, which takes up 72% of it. So you then realize it makes sense, because you're looking at 700,000 unemployed graduates annually who come out and there's no jobs. But when you look at real estate, one house sold creates 9 jobs. There's so much money in this industry. So you look at an estate agent, they get commission. You look at a bond originator, they get commission for facilitating the house with the banks. You look at a bond attorney, they get paid for releasing guarantees. You get an electrician, they need to do a COC for the house. You look at a transferring attorney, they have to assemble the documents so that they can submit them to the deeds office. There's administrative staff and notaries at the deeds office. So, yeah, I think, for me, it's merely that. And my last point is there's money. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money.
I introduced, you said passion. You see how he became alive when he spoke about the industry in which he plays in. You have to love it. but not to take away from our learned friends, our legal minds, Matome. So attorneys are important as part of the value chain. So what do you think you as a conveyancer can help property practitioners in fulfilling our transformation mandate?
Yeah, thank you. I think we as the conveyancers, we've got a big role to play because we work very much closely with the property practitioners. I almost said estate agents, sorry. Remember that if the property practitioner does not do the proper job with the offer to purchase and it gets to me, I have to fix it, and sometimes it's too late for me to fix it. So what we have since done is to identify those startups, real estate companies, and bring in their interns, sometimes also experienced property practitioners who lack some of the most basic legal principles applicable in the industry, and train them, sit them down, and explain these terms to them, because sometimes you see the word suspensive condition, you don't understand what it means and the legal implications. And I think we as the attorneys, we are better positioned to drive that home, to explain it to them. And sometimes it's just a language barrier. You try to explain it in English and somebody doesn't get it. But if I try to do it in Gaspedi, in my home language, that they also understand, they're like, oh, now I see what you're saying. I mean, the other day, I had a client in the office, and I was going to sign them. They had to sign the power of attorney and all the transfer documents. When I got to the little boardroom, I realized that something's wrong here. The seller was not mentally well. One can say she was mentally ill. But the process went all the way from the estate agent to my office. And the question was, but how did this happen? How is it that the estate agent or the property practitioner, pardon me, did not realize this? And then that immediately triggered the question of training. We need to sit them down and explain to these people the capacity. That's a basic contractual law that most of the property practitioners overlook. They're thinking, that's for lawyers. I'll leave that to lawyers. But it starts with them on the ground. You cannot sign a client who is not mentally well. So that deal had to go all the way back. Clients were disappointed. But sorry, we can't do it that way. We need to do it the right way, if you understand where I'm coming from. And sometimes you also get a sense that our startups, real estate businesses have got this unreasonable expectation as far as the registration turnaround time is concerned. And I understand really that speedy registration is directly linked to the health of their cash flow in the company. But at the same time, they must then realize that if they are having those unreasonable expectations, they are coercing indirectly the conveyancer to cut corners in registering that matter, and that can be very, very, very dangerous. So we need to train our people, make them understand the process, where it starts and where it ends, and why it has to take a month, why it has to take 2 months, how these transactions differ, how a cash deal differs from a deal with a bond cancellation, and also. So training is very, 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 very important. And I know if you've got an experienced property practitioner in the office, they can only do so much. Some of the aspects needs to come from a lawyer, because those are the people who understands these legal principles far much better than anybody else. Then that's why I say we need to come in as conveyancers, and I need the PPRA to also come in and help us as far as they can in our quest to train the people. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So just one of the things that, or consultations that we've had, I think in the last couple of weeks, was have a meeting with the Black BBL, Black Lawyers Association, just to see that what is it that we can do to partner with them to better service our stakeholders, right, in the industry. And Matume, earlier you also spoke of suspensive conditions. That's a big word, ne? But I always tell practitioners that you need to know the ins and outs of the industry. You can't just be driven by the commission or professional fee that you're going to get. So it's also very important to invest in your craft. Investing in your craft means getting training. Just like if you want to go to law school or study LLB, then go do your articles, you're investing. And that is no different to this industry, even though probably it's the most lucrative. Thank you, Matume. And then, Kele, what are there red tapes in the industry? You've been in the industry probably the longest on this floor. Are there red tapes? And what is it as a PPR? Are we addressing those red tapes?
Sure. I'm taking off the training hat. Now I'm being a property professional. I think the issues were raised already, but I'll just touch on them a little bit. I think the one that's most important is exactly that people aren't getting their FFCs. But another one that I've asked about before we came here was people that go away from the industry, when they come back, they then not too sure how to get back into the industry. Because sometimes they'll say your account is owing this big amount at the PPRA, and then you're thinking, but I wasn't even here. So for me, I would like to see maybe more flexibility from the PPRA so that you can look at someone's case and say, why are you back, or why were you gone, and this is what you owe. I'll give an example. Previously, developers, which was also raised again, big problem, they don't comply. So their consultants don't actually have FFCs. So if you've registered before as a property professional, and then you work for a developer for 5 years, when you come back, they would say you are still owing for all those other years. So then they just operate illegally. You know, that's how you get people just doing their own thing. So sometimes that is the red tape, that people do want to comply, but one, they feel like when they do go to the PPRA, they don't understand the account or how it got there, or sometimes they feel like, I'm not even gonna bother, I'm just going to operate illegally because there's just so much red tape. So for me, what I would like to see is a little bit more of flexibility in terms of, yes, let's comply, but let's also do it in such a way that one can and doesn't end up feeling like, I'm not gonna bother. The other red tape is the one that, again, has been addressed, is those big estates where we're being asked to pay a big amount of money. So it has been addressed, you did say, but I now have a question. Right now, I'm sure everybody wants to know in this room, currently, what do we do if somebody says, look, you must pay 80K to operate in here? Like, isn't like tomorrow, in the next 24 hours? Where do we go? I know right now you guys are investigating, and it's better, I must say, it's much better. But for immediate sort of action from us, what can we do? What's our resources? Thank you.
Thank you so much. You spoke of flexibility, and I'd like to believe that I'm a flexible person. Therefore, the people that I work with are also flexible. But I also want us to understand that they are legislated things, right, that we need to comply with, right? So, for example, our legislation says if you leave the industry to go pursue your LLB at Harvard Law School, you need to tell us that you are no longer a practitioner. So it's a two-way street. So you need to inform us so that then we stop your account. Then you go pursue other avenues. Then when you come back, you are starting on a clean slate. So if you leave, you go to Harvard, and then it's a first world country, it dribbles you. When you come back, those fees were accumulating. Then you put us in a difficult position because I can't just write off certain fees or. But I do understand then that that's inhibitor, because now you want to come back, but you say you've got this invoice. But we are reasonable, we are flexible. We talk then the legal language of, let's talk about an acknowledgement of debt or a payment plan once you comply, because we really want practitioners to comply, to come back, yes. And then your other issue, Gele, that you raised around accreditation fees, that's one thing that I said, I think I shared with the chairperson, the board, even the minister, that if we don't do anything right, that one we must get, we must get it right, because we can't allow red tapes to perpetuate, especially if it's something that's now regarded unlawful, So we do have a legal and compliance executive, Mr. Clarence Caton. When we are done, I think we'll open the floor so that he can just talk to that element, what tractions we've made in that regard, because that is close to my heart. We can't trade, and if you can't trade, you can't eat, you can't franchise, So we are on it. Thank you. And just back to you, Madume, are there challenges in the conveyancing space? Are the red tapes similar, since you're a practitioner as well?
Yeah, we do see some challenges, and I think some of those I've highlighted before. But what I can also say is, usually when you invite the property practitioners to come and get training from us, the first question is, am I going to get points from attending your training? Meaning, are you going to give me a certificate that comes with points? And usually my answer is not an impressive one, because our certificates do not come with points. And that's why I say I think the PPRA can come in here and allow attorneys to give trainings that comes with verifiable points, and I think that's what you guys call it at the PPRA. If you like, you can come have a look at our material and see if they are good enough for them to be given to the people as training material, and ultimately decide that this kind of a training with this material can carry so much points. So that ultimately when these people come to our premises for training, they are able to have something to show for it, and they know that this training is directly linked to the compliance aspect of their businesses at the PPRA. I think that's very, very, very important, and I think that is the step that we need to get to.
Thank you so much, Madume. Before we take it to the floor, I would just like to hear from Bernice and Tembisa. You are still new in the sector. You are young. Are there challenges? Are there other challenges that you're experiencing that are different to what has been expressed earlier today? And you can just go one after the other. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the biggest challenges young people are facing is the funding to get the FFC in the first place. And so we have struggled with a lot of interns not having the funding just to get the initial step to even get into the door and become a property practitioner. So, and then once they've gotten the funding and made means to get the FFC, it's the funding of the NQF level 4 and 5, which has been quite a struggle. Yeah.
So I've been in the industry for about 7 years now, and I've experienced so from the level of entry, right, coming into the industry, one of the challenges you would face is mentorship, lack of mentorship, like she said. So I think it goes hand in hand with the external environment and the internal environment, especially when you look at, so for instance, when you look at the PPRA structure, right? Well, it was the AAB back then, but you have your executive authority, then you have your financial authority, then you have the CEO, and then you have, other counterparts, your risk strategy, internal audits. Then just below, you've got the responsible parties for transformation, education and training, compliance, registrations. So I think one of the problems when I look at the old, well, EAP, and when I look at the current PPRA, which I must say I'm very happy we have someone like Utato who actually has over 9 years experience as a principal agent. So that gives me the confidence that this was some of the leaders that will actually guide us as the youth into actually operating, because they can relate to what problems we're facing, right? But yeah, when I look at the old one learner program, you would just get, which is a great concept by the way, you would get students that were recruited and were given stipends to learn on the NQF4. But when they're given hosts, the host would just let them print out flyers, go out there, sell properties. So the problem with that is it's access to markets, which is another challenge. Is if I'm a homeowner and there's an intern that comes to me with a flyer and says, I want to sell your house, I'm not going to trust that person to sell my house. It's my most expensive asset. So the issue we have with that is obviously then also the incentives for the mentors and the hosts, I think was an issue as well. We need to raise incentives for the hosts to be able to actually go out there with the mentees, hold them hand by hand and show them how to sell a house, from putting a board down, a for sale board down, all the way to interpreting an offer to purchase. I think that way mentees get to learn a lot quicker, which is something that I also struggled with along my journey. But over time, yeah, these are just some of the things I realized as we went on. But I'm very confident with the current leadership. Looking forward to seeing what's
in store. Thank you so much, panelists and colleagues. There are questions. We're going to open it up now to questions. And the questions don't just have to come to the panelists, the minister, the chairperson, board members, and executives are still in the room, so we can pose them to the House at large. Mr. Sakwaneka, I hope you were taking notes to hear what the questions are, the concerns are still in the sector, that we can address through our transformation agenda as well. So if you could just maybe, while we're getting the questions from the floor, we can now start taking questions from the people in the room. But before I do, I just wanted the executive manager to come here so he can tell us, or tell the room, what strides we're making in as far as accreditation fees and Section 63 is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I just want to assure all property practitioners in the room that we take this accreditation fee issue extremely serious. I've heard that a homeowners association is asking an amount of 80,000 Rand, which is ridiculous. So the first is to report the matter to us. Please lodge a complaint so that we can receive a formal complaint, and then you will be the complainant and the HOA will be the respondent. So we address it in terms of the Act. The Act, sections 28 to 31 of the Act tells us or empowers us to deal with complaints. But in addition to that, we're also collaborating with the Competitions Commission, and then I've also heard the Chief Ombud from CISOS also said that it's something that they are also addressing. So we address it in terms of the Property Practitioners Act, and then we also collaborate with our sister bodies, and I'm sure that we will address the issue and we will get rid of this. It's ridiculous. Thank you.
Before you go, Clarence, I just saw Meneer Werner Ekstien is in the room, and I know he is one of the people who submitted one of the complaints. he has submitted supporting documents. So I'm sure he's sitting here saying, okay, fine. You are telling people to file, lodge a complaint. I've given supporting documents. What are the next steps?
Thank you, CEO. Sir, your complaint, I'm aware of your complaint. We are dealing with your complaint. And apologies that we are taking a bit long. We are hampered by the strike action that's currently going on. But your complaint is being dealt with exactly how I explained in terms of the Act. You're the complainant, the HOA will be the respondent, and we'll deal with it in terms of the provisions of the Act. And as I said, we're also collaborating with Competitions Commission and hopefully with CSOS also. I will speak to the Chief Ombud that was here previously, and I can assure you we will deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. We'll take questions from the floor.
Yes, good afternoon or good evening. Thank you. My name is Andrew Sadomba from the Egoruleni, Far Eastern Springs. Thank you. To Mr. Matume, since you are the attorney, an honest answer, please. How are you dealing with agents who do not have practitioners, who do not have FFC? How are you dealing with them as of now? And my next question, PPRA, their main duty is to regulate and to safeguard the customers who are the sellers and buyers out there. PPRA, are you known out there as PPRA, or you are still known by the other previous name? And what are you doing as of now to inform the customers, the role players, the people who you are regulating us on? What are you doing? Because if you are not known, how then are you going to regulate us? Because it should start with regulating, the public should know about you so that you will be able to regulate us. And with the guys who are still outside, the ones who fell, who couldn't meet the deadline, on my view, they are the most dangerous guys because they have got little knowledge and they are not regulated. Obviously, they are still practicing under the table. What are your plans on those? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. So the law is very much clear on that. If a property practitioner or that person who pretends to be a property practitioner does not have a Fidelity Fund certificate, they simply cannot be paid the money. And we have got processes in place which help us to identify that particular aspect as early as possible, and we are able to inform that person that you must be aware that without you having this FFC certificate, you're not going to get the money. We as attorneys, we are officers of the law, and when we have got the law to apply in front of us, we must do exactly that. So, and that's my answer. We are not paying those monies, and any attorney who's doing so, I think they should be made aware that it must not be done. All right.
And just to quickly or briefly just answer you there, Sam, I know one of the concerns when the board came on board, the minister was saying that PPRA, you're not visible. We're not seeing you anywhere. And I really would like to believe that we've made strides in that regard. I don't want you to miss us anywhere. We want to be in your face. But it is a valid point that you bring in, but we've been intentional about our stakeholder engagement, not only in Gauteng, but throughout the country as well. Social media platform as well. Are you on social media? We never used to be there. but now we're there. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, yeah, and LinkedIn. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Acting COO. My question is to Mr. Matume. We can't do it wrong. We must do it right. The fact of the matter, there are some conveyors who connive with the illegal agents. Siwa paisa kuphi lama conveyancers. Rewa paisa kai. Atsebua kuphi.
Thank you. I think it is unfortunate to learn that there are colleagues in the profession who are doing that. But we have Legal Practice Council, which is our regulatory body as the attorneys. And I think you can actually report them there. And I'm not sure if the PPRA has got a relationship with the Legal Practice Council. And I think if they do, that is something that you can raise with the PPRA. And I'm definitely sure that they will also make the LPC aware of that particular aspect. But yeah, it is just unfortunate to learn that there are people doing that. Thank you.
Good day. My name is Garabo. It's not rather a question, but an opinion or an answer to what the acting CEO was asking. The reason why young people are not retained in this industry. I believe, as a young entrepreneur also, this industry, as much as it is lucrative, it is very expensive. Most companies currently right now are hiring if you've got nothing less than 30,000 savings in your account, so that you are able to take care of your expenses, take care of petrol, take care of whatever expenses you might incur in the first 6 months. Because immediately when you come into this industry, chances are your first payment will come after 6 months. The first 3 months you are doing the work, you'll start getting a listing after 3 months, and the listing only sells, or you get the money at the end of the 3 months. Recently, I myself, due to the rising petrol, had to buy a scooter. Not many can do that, so that we can go to listings, view listings, service clients, and so forth. So what I would also suggest, or I feel that could retain young people in this, is some sort of program. When young people do come in, they are fully aware of these consequences, but then maybe from the PPRA or from the government side, instead of business funding to people who are coming in, some sort of stipend. A stipend that can keep the young people in the first 6 months, because it's literally impossible to be a property practitioner without money, without resources. We need airtime, you need petrol, and all those expenses do not come cheap. So maybe some sort of stipend, 1,500, 1,200, I think that can really retain young people and really motivate them to participate in these programs or in the real estate industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. What I'm going to do is take 2 more questions from the floor, and then I'll give someone from the PPRA to answer. Program director, I'm going to do it that way. And then I'll also then take questions from online. Thank you.
Just checking. Good afternoon, Minister, CEO of PPRA. I want to congratulate you on achievements within the industry for the short space of time that you've been here. I won't give you my age, but I've seen 5 ministers already serving with him. I've seen 5 or 6 boards, EAB, PPRA boards in existence as well. And I can see now that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I served with Sis Lendiwe Sisulu when she went to Cape Town, when we opened up that development. And I think that was my last store there. But what I want to say is this. When they introduced this one learnership, it's about 10 years back, 19 years back, I took in 120 learners. Right? I had 30 in Mpumalanga, 50 in Johannesburg, and 40 in Cape Town. They paid us then 100 rand per learner. Okay? What I can say is this. What then transpired is that these learners, when they came out of the learning and teaching, they weren't given an opportunity to get into real estate. Simple reason was, when they done their course, there was no opportunities for them, because there's a lot of properties to sell, but they couldn't get in. And that is where it comes in, because the board then, and whoever was in charge, never gave them the real opportunity. Because you tell me, a youngster of 19 years old, come and knock on your door, and he say, give me a mandate, I want to sell your house. Me, I'm not dumb. How lighty like that? No. They must go to further education after doing the NQF4. And this is, I think, where we came short as the board, as housing. Right? I can also remember then as well that, with all the steps being taken, that we as realtors, especially in township areas, we were left behind. We are still left behind, because then what happened was that the big companies used to take these learners, get the internships before us, and they used to get 1,000 rand per intern, not 100 rand like us. And what happened to these youngsters? They became glorified T-girls and T-boys. So out to the minister and to the EAB, right, make use of the few old topics that are still there, right, and not people coming from other sectors to come and teach us what real estate is all about. There is still a lot of people sitting here that can add a lot of value. So please look at us and engage with us so that we can give back to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to come and get your contact details after this, because you put up your hand, and I really do appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good day, everyone. I just want to ask Neb, because I've got the questions relating to what they have said, but also the other one earlier, because I've been raising my hand since the morning, since we started. But anyway, first I want to say I appreciate, it looks like we now have a hope, a glimpse of hope, to regain our confidence. Let's say for our confidence to be instilled, that there will be proper regulation and monitoring and enforcement of the law. We will really appreciate if there is consistency. And what you are promising, I learned one principle: don't make a promise if you cannot perform. So what you are promising us, and it must not take forever, we need time frames. If you say you're going to do what, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? Let me say within 7 days, give a feedback. 3 weeks is enough for you to close the case. It's straightforward. We're giving you evidence. What is taking forever? Okay. I would like to say, I'm here with a heart broken, sore heart, because of what is happening in the industry. In paper is very good. We are told the law is very good, but implementation is dololo. And then, let me tell you, we were evicted. All our possessions, we were evicted by the property principals, who are very powerful, very rich. We were staying in a very nice property belonging to the pensioners, the Williams, which was auctioned for 5,000. Because the persons, they are colors, they are black, we are nothing, our lives means nothing. And we have been from pillar to post. I'm trained in the property law very well. I know the ins and outs, and I've assisted so many people to empower them with the law. And I have attended so many trainings. We know the property in and out, the law. But now these people, they are they are the law to themselves. Okay, I'll flash to you. There is a proof of payment. When I saw that I'm dealing with the property syndicates, I even do the transfers from my account to the body corporate trust account. I had paid 14,000 prior to the order to auction the property being granted. The order was granted in October for 5,000 to auction this poor pensioner's house for 5,000. And there is a proof I had already paid 14,000 into the body corporate trust account prior to them getting the order. And then they would not listen. They will charge these poor pensioners the levy, which is not even charged in Sandton or in Fourways. They will charge the pensioners the levy of 7,000 or 8,000 every month. I'm talking about Roadport West. That is not an area. Roadport West, no, but Roadport West and Roadport CBD. The levy is there. Without water and lights is about 1,200, 1,300. But these poor pensioners was coming at 7,000. When I start questioning, I even reported the matter to SIU. The SIU reported asked the public protector to investigate. But now when they see that their authorities, they play law. So now when the public protector closed the file, then they throw it away again. Now, when we went to the tribunal, we got evicted without a court order. We went to the tribunal, and then we were talking because we went to High Court to cancel the title deed because it was fraudulently auctioned. But now their advocate said to these people they want to cancel the title deed. But if they cancel the title deed, do you know, you guys, how much problem you're going to be in? They said these people are too poor. They cannot afford to cancel the title deed. So now we are asking, we are pleading. Mr. Williams passed away because of heart attack and stress. They said his house was auctioned by the bond and the bank. There was no bond, there is no bank. We can give you evidences. And I'm not at peace. Now we are asking, can you make a promise to give the Williams justice? We have got evidences, and anything that was fraudulently done, you know, it can be undone. They say fraud unravels all transactions. So now, if that is true, fraud unravels all transactions, which means even this illegally registration, it can be undone, can be deregistered. And the poor Williams are crying. They said, Tenji, you were assisting our father when he was alive. Now he has passed away. Are you going to stand up and support us? I said, what I have promised to Mr. Williams, I'm going to see it to the end. Even if it means they threatened me, and I will tell you just one. Okay, I will show you. For helping the Williams, I was unlawfully arrested and told, and the commander said she's even teaching me a lesson. And this, you can see, there was not even a charge. I was in cells for 3 days. And then after 3 days, when the investigators were taking photos, I said, please make sure, have you not forgotten to take a photo of me? They said, Change, why do you want photos? I said, because after I come out here, I'm going to sue you for unlawful arrest. I did not even break the house. I did not even do anything wrong, and you are putting me in cells. You are not even charging me. My crime to be put in cells was standing up for the poor Williams. Because now, these pensioners, they had no right. We have taken them to all doors. We took them to CISOS. We even took them to Ilungelo Lako. They called the head of CISOS, I believe is Mr. Boysons. And then he came to the hearing. I'm one of the person who was there at the hearing with the Williams. And he said they're going to help. But now when we went to send the matter to CISOS, they said it's already at High Court. And now, when we went to CISOS in 2017, they said, I've got the document, sorry. The document from CISOS, they said we already have the summons. But now, CISOS came in 2016 after the summons were already been there. Now we are saying, when these people are very good to take the people to the lawyers because they know what the lawyers will do. They know to follow the law. But now we're saying we need justice. And I am here. I've lost everything. They've auctioned all our stuff, all our possessions, and you can see how cold is the winter. gadgets, everything, crockery, fridge, food, everything was taken. But now because we're standing up for justice.
Yeah. Tenji? Tenji, here, the stage, here. Thank you so much for your transparency. We'll approach it in this manner. We'll start with your question, and that will be taken by the minister, and then we'll answer all the questions that were posed before, and the minister will provide direction. Okay. Tenji, the minister's team will be in touch, and then we'll take it offline. But by the questions, thank you. Transformation Fund Manager, did you want to just talk to the questions that were asked prior for 2 minutes, and then we can open up the floor again? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to pose the questions that were actually asked by the guys online, and these are as follows. I'm not intending to answer them. I'll leave that to the panelists and everybody in the room to actually deal with the answering. The first question is, how do SMMEs get access to the support programs? Please provide contact details from the PPRA office. This is coming from Black Pels. The timeshare industry is not comprehensively covered by the PPA and its regulations. The question is there a plan to amend the legislation? And what process will be followed to properly regulate the timeshare industry? Tabile Kamlani is asking that question on the timeshare is from Tabile Kamlani. The challenge, this is the next question, the challenge or concern about going digital, and I think this relates to the minister's call that we need to digitize our platforms. The question is, if we are to go digital, the PPRA system has not worked for months. Are we going to succeed in implementing this? Chair, with your permission, I can just only maybe perhaps take the first one to say, how do the emerging SMMEs get access to the support programs? All our programs are actually on our website. There is a pledge form if you are interested. Fill in that pledge form and we'll get your details and we'll be in touch with you. I'll leave the rest of the questions to the panel. Thank you.
The contact details of the PPRA, it's 082 8684 157. Thank you. Can I have the education, training, and professionalization manager answer the question around the VOASA timeshare? Thank you.
Good evening, colleagues. It's evening, right? Yes. Okay, so VOASA is asking a question on whether PPRA is regulating, or rather whether the PPA and its regulation can be amended. And I think in terms of the process that the organization has embarked on, in terms of reviewing the legislation and the regulation, we can look at that. If there are deficiencies in terms of that, regulating that particular subsector, we can address it in that process. So that will be my answer. In terms of education and training, we are We are partnering with Voasa. We've been working with them very, very closely, and we have agreed in terms of education and training, standards of education and training, in terms of their qualification. We are discussing with them the practical training and the code of conduct, I think in a week's time. So I think we'll have clarity in terms of that. Currently, we're working with the services SETA to develop a qualification for that subsector because there was no educational standards for that subsector. And when we did the research, we found no qualification that was suitable for that. Hence, we have now embarked on developing a new qualifications for them. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Nomsa. Yes, that was posed by our listeners who are streaming. But I'm happy to take questions. 4 hands, please.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
We both are answering.
Greetings to the minister. Thank you for staying so long. You said to us early in the morning that you will stay until it's too late. We can see the results. We hope you will get a second term. I've got 3 questions. I will be very briefly. The first one is direct to the minister as to we are struggling as practitioners because of the credit bureau and the credit score is a challenge. Due to COVID, people were not economically active. Therefore, there are a lot of red flags. So we are struggling to get approvals from the banks. So is there anything that you are doing together with the president of the country to actually talk to the authority, those who are in charge, to actually uplift and give people grace so that the market and the economy will be open again? We are not the only one who's struggling. Even the banks are struggling. Every financial institution, they can relate this with me. To my brother there, Matume, back in the days when we joined the real estate, I think 2007 or so, we had a challenge with banks, and we have challenged the banks to correct and be lenient to our clients. This was our challenges. You can get a client, and then once the bond has been approved, the bank will call the clients, put them in a class, educate them, tell them about scary interest rates. And as a result, they will cancel the bond. Okay? You said the other day, the client came to your office and you realized something wrong. And by the look of things, the client will be scared because you would now try to break new grounds that the client did not know. Okay? For that, as a result, we'll lose business. There's a struggle behind. For us as practitioners to get a successful deal, there's a lot of things involved. There's fuel involved, there's time involved, communication, time. There's a lot of things that are involved. For you to find a deal on top of your desk, you must know that I've been sweating, sleepless nights. I've been doing counseling. You know, sometimes you meet a client is going through challenges. You need to sit and listen until the deal is closed. Now the deal is closed, it's in front of you. You say, no, man, something is wrong. The client is suffering from depression. Therefore, you scare my client away. So for that matter, I will be losing business because of your services. Okay, the last one will be the challenges. I will relate this with the minister together with everyone in the room. This year, I had a client. She wanted to buy a house of around 2 million. And she said to me, don't worry about the deposit. The deposit is there in the system somewhere. I've paid it in 2014. And I said, what? And I asked the lady if she can provide me with the name of the agent and someone who was doing that, who collect the money. And then she provided that. I contacted the agents. The agent says, no, look, those people don't know anything about property. Therefore, he actually did what we call desk qualifications. He sit down with them and say, you qualify for this much, but however, 200,000 is required as a deposit. Okay? There was no OTP signed, and they paid 200,000 to his trust account of his own agents. And the deal did not go through. He utilized the money. Then I contacted the guy. The guy gets scared and starts paying, and then he stopped paying. We only pay 65,000 rand. 135 is still outstanding. I've tried to take the matter forward, contacted the PPRA. They said, no, they need a case number. Then I went to the police station. The police station says, no, this is a civil case, or we cannot do that. Go to the small claims court. Small claims court, they said, no, the amount is too huge for us. Okay? And then there is no solution. Where do we report corrupt agencies? So I want us I want you to break it down to me as to what is the way forward. What do I tell the clients? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Ntebate. I would like to thank my minister, the chairperson, and I would like to thank you, the acting CEO, as well. This is such an informative session. I had the opportunity also to attend the one in Kempton Park. Hence, I want to speak from that previous experience. Like they've already mentioned, other speakers, that we are really getting somewhere. This is a beautiful setup. I think everyone in here is now hopeful. However, not being